We are continuing our series on AI. And today, well, last week we spoke about AI and image generation. And today we'll be discussing AI in video generation. And some of our panelists, I'm really excited as they'll be sharing some of the tools that they're using. And if you're unfamiliar with the concept, like, how is that different? Is it just using we spoke a lot about Descript and some of those tools, but no, when we were talking about generative fill and AI generation, that's using, for example, text to prompt, text to video. So actually putting a prompt in that would help to orchestrate and create your video content. And I know, Rick, you've got some samples of how you've been using it, and let's dive in.
Absolutely. I can maybe I'll start with LTX, since I did a demo on that recently. They actually came out of beta and have 5 new features, and I can go over a few. And one I can kind of mention, but can't really demonstrate, but I'll at least show it to you. So I will share my screen here. Let's see. Okay. Can we see that?
It's coming. There we go.
There it is.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to back out here a little bit so I can kind of go over some of the new features. Like I mentioned, LTX just came out of beta recently, and there are 5 new features. Character dialogue. I know Alex had been asking about, can we give these characters some dialogue? And that is one of the new features now. Face motion
and Rick,
capture.
if you can back us up a little bit of what are we looking at here?
Okay, I apologize. This is a LTX Studio. It does say beta, even though they've recently come out of beta. I still get the little icon here. But this is a storytelling platform using AI. You can either write a prompt, and it will generate a complete storyboard and video and everything from scratch from a single prompt. Or you can start with a script, or you can start from scratch and do a new blank project. But these are some of my past projects, so what I'll do is I'll open one that I've been working on here. And so what we're looking at here, this is the storyboard mode. And in here we can have all of our different scenes, each shot, and then we can kind of break it down, scene by scene, shot by shot. And then we can set the location, the theme, the video style, and all of that, and kind of just generate a video from scratch. So a single prompt to complete video with soundtrack, voiceover, now character dialogue, sound effects, and yeah. So I'm going to dig into some of the new features. So we did have a video a few weeks back now that if you could pull that up, you might be able to see some of the previous topics. But I'm going to start with, so there's, like I mentioned, 5 new features: character dialogue, face motion capture, keyframe control, collaboration, so you can work with different people, and then canvas. So I'm going to start with canvas, and I'll pull open here is this shot generation. And I will go over to the canvas mode. I've already started this one, but I'll go ahead and pull it open. So you can actually scribble in ideas. So like I wrote a prompt in here called a war-torn street with a drone, and I just drew this rough shape, and I drew this rough shape. I hit generate, and this is the image it gave me. But I will go ahead and generate another idea here. So you can see it kind of takes the basic shape. So I'll go ahead and clear this out, and maybe I'll draw like just rough, really quick sketch drone here, and I'll draw a street here maybe. Kind of see how the drone is in here, the street is in here. And I'll clear that out again just to give you another idea. So I'll do a street maybe going this way, and then a drone kind of a big, and this is really rough, but it seems to do an okay job with some of these. Some of these features seem to be, some are quicker than others, so hopefully this isn't too bad. That does not look like a drone, so maybe I'll try another one. I'll just clear this and draw a drone here again in the street. Yeah, it's kind of similar. Maybe draw another drone here, see if that works. And then not quite doing what I'm wanting here, but I'll just back out and show you the shot I generated from that. So these are a couple different attempts that I had at that. This is the first shot, and then I will generate the video for that. And while that's generating, I might jump into some other features here. So we do have character dialogue as well. So we're able to, oh, that did come through kind of quickly here, so maybe I can try that now. Generate that shot. If these take too long, I will jump into another topic. Oh, but that seems to be coming along fairly quickly. Okay, let's play that and see how that turned out. So, some things are hit and miss. I mean, it is a new feature. It seems like a pretty fun one, but from just a couple scribbles, I'm able to get kind of a rough idea of what I'd like. Now, there is that new feature, character dialogue. So we're able to come in, choose the character, and that can be set back by the cast, by the way. So we have our cast members. Once we set up the cast, it'll assign a voice to them, and then we can type in our dialogue, and we can,
We have no other
I don't know if you can hear that.
now. We have no other
And are
options.
these characters that are already existing, or did you have to do some development on, like, within the platform that these are now characters that you use?
So when you put in an initial prompt, it will set up a few characters if you list some characters in your prompt. But a lot of times I'll go in and do some tweaks and edits to each character. So I'll come in and, pick the type I want. You can also do a face swap, so you can actually replace the face with an actual face you want to use. You can set their name, their age, essence, appearance, clothing, pick their voice from, these are some predefined voices. But once you have that set, and throughout the storyboard, if the character is in the scene, it'll mention them with a little @ symbol, or you can add them into the prompt as well, and then it will generate that shot. So I'll go back in here, and I will show the character voiceover. So I did put a little voiceover here, and you can choose how expressive it is. And, it's early, but
We have no other options. We have to attack now.
so it started with this. This is just
We have no other options. We have to attack now.
no voice. I added the voice, the character dialogue, and then,
We have no other options. We have to attack now.
so it's not perfect, but, it is coming along. It's a new feature.
Right.
You can also, there is one that I've tried, but I can't demo it now because it won't use my camera, but there is a face capture. So you can either upload a video or you can use your webcam. And I've got a webcam, but unfortunately it is not the one I'm pointing at my face, so I can't use that. But you can drive the actual performance with a video camera or a video file.
So is that essentially in, say, real time? Because earlier there was reference for maybe what you wanted for your scene, and now is this somebody could actually, like, we'll say, like Alexander could be sitting there and talking and acting something out. Will it take that clip of Alexander and then put it in? Is that what you're saying? And then overlay whatever your prompt is?
Yes. I wish I could demo that for you, but unfortunately I cannot.
No, that's fine, but that's great to know that that's a new feature.
Yeah. The collaboration feature I can't demonstrate for you, but that's, obvious that you can add different people to the project so people can collaborate remotely. And let's see here, Canvas collaboration, keyframe control. So let me go. So now there is a keyframe feature here as well. Let's see if this pops up. There we go. So you can kind of choose your initial frame, which I had here, and then your end frame. And I use generative fill to add in some, fire and flames and some damage. So the idea was to have this receive some, mech under heavy gunfire. And so I applied that, and this is the end result from that. It's not perfect, but, I think with some tweaking, if I had maybe focused the generative fill more to this area instead of that whole chest, it may have come out a little differently. But it has some interesting potential, I feel.
Definitely. And how are you using this strictly as is in platform of like, this is just storyboarding, or where do you see this heading?
Well, this is, I think, a great storyboarding tool. You can output, so this is how you share the project with other people. There's a presentation mode, but you can output your package. So it's either, it's got all your files, all the different clips, all of the different audio files, sound effects and everything, and it kind of sorts it into a nice folder. Or you can just click this and it will output a complete video from start to finish with, no editing or anything like that. You can kind of preview as well, but it is rough. So a lot of these, when you first generate, it's all static images. So it will a lot of times prompt you to generate a video clip for each one, or you can go in each shot, choose your angles, choose your camera movements, and set each shot individually. It's going very slow, unfortunately, so kind of back out of that. So when you're in your storyboard mode, you have some basic control over the prompt. You can regenerate each prompt. You can add some dialogue here, but it doesn't seem to actually add the dialogue for me until I go into the shot editor and then adjust the dialogue here. But really, I feel it's a really great storyboarding tool. As far as an output video, it's still pretty rough, but it will help you get your message across to your team to, I think, be a lot more efficient. I think it's a really efficient way of being able to get your ideas out fairly quickly.
Right. Alex?
I think that's one of the most important things is to really think about what can it do right now. I know that a lot of directors and some other folks in Hollywood have said, "Oh, it's over," and everyone's up in arms and they're talking about it. But I think these are mostly by people who don't actually do this work, like do the work, like actually like film the thing and do the thing. AI becomes a lot less. The thing is that there are so many people at play when you actually shoot a movie or you shoot a TV show, and I'm talking about a higher end thing with real budgets. There's 100 people there, and 100 people with, on average, probably each one of them probably has somewhere, but on average, probably 10 years of experience. So you're talking about 10,000 years of experience that is all being applied to doing that one shot, and they have their own specialties. There's somebody managing the audio, and there's 2 or 3 people managing the audio, most likely, at least. There are camera operators, and there's people moving, and they all know what they're doing, and they all have to do it in a way. And then you have an actor. And if you look at how many actors just don't go very far and get bad, get bad ratings, and that person really isn't an actor, and most of them can't get away with that for very long before they're not acting anymore. And so the thing is that I think that, and those are human beings with huge amounts of life experience and work and so on and so forth. And I think that, so I think when people say, "Oh, we're going to replace actors and we're going to make our own movies," we'll make something that is, and I think we can make our own memes. But I think that it's going to be, I'm not saying it'll never happen, but I'm going to argue that it's going to be a long time. And I'll show you some hallucinations from Runway to kind of, it's going to take time to figure it out. It's kind of like, you're dealing with kind of right now, kind of a flighty little, and it's gotten huge. I mean, if you look at Gen 2 versus Gen 3, for instance, in Runway, the improvement is massive. But the last 10% is 90% of the show, and I think that that's what we're going to see. The reason I bring all of that up is that I think that I started in film as previs, in previs, and I think this tool is explosive when it comes to previs. And I'll show one little clip that isn't perfect. But here's the funny thing is, when we do previs, it doesn't have to be. Like, hey, I'm trying to get you something that gives you an idea of where I'm going. And I've talked to a couple of visual effects supervisors, pretty high up ones, let's say that's one of the best things about all of these tools is being able to do something really quickly in a couple minutes, generate a bunch of ideas, and then show an artist, this is what I'm thinking. Like I'm getting something out of my head that didn't take you time. Now I need you to, make it. Now I have explicit control with someone who really knows what they're doing to form it into the final piece. And I think that when we overstate it, I think it's dangerous because it scares a lot of people. And the reality is it's going to be, I will say, and maybe I'll be eating these words, but a decade from now, we're still not going to be making feature films with AI, like real feature films. Someone's going to make a feature film with AI, but like a feature film that you could release to a theater or put on Apple TV Plus or whatever, that's still not going to happen in 10 years from now. Because we have enough problems. I mean, the Russo brothers will do a movie that isn't really worth watching, and they had $120 million to do it, and the best actors and all these other things, and they still made something that wasn't watchable in a couple of their movies. And so it really is hard I think it'll be hard for AI to pull it off.
Alexander?
Yeah, I agree with Alex. I think it's a long ways off, and I don't think we're going to be replacing humans anytime soon for certain creative aspects of what we do with our culture, with movies and TV and that type of thing. I've been very conflicted about using this type of technology, but I have to say I've sort of embraced it now because I use it in many ways. As something as simple as machine learning. With editing photos, that type of thing. And that technology has been around for a long time. Been using that every day. I use Chat GPT every single day. And as far as having video generate of these sort of like very realistic human beings, I've seen people use this technology to do training videos. And although I can still tell they're not human, it's very impressive technology. And, I got to be honest, I would much rather watch that than someone try to do a presentation who's not good at speaking, who has bad lighting, bad audio, bad video. I would much rather watch this. The example that I actually just discovered recently was looking at Boink software. I mean, a lot of their training videos now, they've started using, I don't know if it's LTX or what they're using, but they've got these AI generated humans, and they look and sound quite good. And I would much rather watch that than someone who doesn't have a good setup. And I think that is going to be a good tool for a lot of people that are not willing to invest in that setup or pay people or even train themselves to do this type of thing.
Alex?
Yeah, and I do think that what Alex just said is important. If English is not, like, for instance, if English is your market and it's not your first language, AI is very useful. Like, I think that a lot of times when you see a lot of AI voices, a lot of those have been driven from the fact that someone's doing them out of Asia or they're doing them somewhere else, and they can't speak. And I really think that, I think there's a huge opportunity for folks to use AI to kind of bridge that gap, because it can be very hard to listen to folks that are trying to address a market outside. It would be very hard to listen to my voice trying to talk in German, for instance, is a good example for when we're talking about boinks. It'd be messy because I don't know German. So when I say, we shouldn't talk outside of our native language, I can't talk outside of my native language. But I think for those who can, I think it's an impressive skill. But I also think that unless you're incredibly good at it, and you learned it most likely before you were 13 or 14 years old, you're going to have a hard time being as listenable as modern AI tools.
Let's go to a couple questions and then we'll come back. I know, Alex, you have some stuff to demo as well. So next question.
We'll go to the questions and then we'll come back. Rick's got a couple more things to show too.
Okay, so let's do a couple questions and then we'll come back to Rick.
First one's from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia, here on the panel. AI video that would be beneficial for houses of worship?
Bill?
I'm sure it would be beneficial to them the same way it's beneficial for everybody else. There are some things that I'm a little leery of, and here's where. Let's take it out of the religious thing because I think we get into too much trouble with that, and let's move it over into history. Let's say I wanted to do a video on the the end of the Roman Empire. I happen to be narrating a book right now that is set there. So if Flavius Claudius Julianus is one of my characters, and I ask AI to make that character for me and put him in a scene so I can talk about the politics of the Roman Empire, what does he look like? Is the AI gonna have a reference to, or are they going to make a reference up? And if they make a reference up and I'm presenting this to the audience as here's a scene with him and the Roman council together, is that how much is it going to look like anything realistic? How much is it going to be influenced by the fact that the AI has to make up an image of a historical figure and yet doesn't have the data behind that to make it up? Those are the kind of things that I think are going to be really interesting as we get so much imagery that is able to be generated, and it hits directly for me to what we're talking about now. The tools are getting better, but I'm not sure they're getting enough better and enough accurate so that what I'm seeing in something like Rick's fascinating and beautiful demos is something I can really work with and feel confident in, that I'm making something that is real and I could create as a storyboard or afford to build if it was outside of this internal computer thing. It's just the whole thing is fascinating that we're going through.
Yeah, and I think that, like, when I think back at just my career-wise and learning from Photoshop and Adobe Elements to video editing and all of those things, you're always picking the tool that will help you right now with a particular solution. So before there was background remover with Canva, I would have to, I knew how to trace and go around an image to pull the image out. And I think if you think of AI video in that regards of, well, what can you as a house of worship and we can equate that to maybe a team that might be resource strapped, that, well, what can I use this? So the answer is yes. So all of that to say, yes, I think that it would make sense, but it's like, oh, can I use this to maybe help with the intro for a certain segment of the service? Or is this for some social or some marketing content for where we are right now with AI video? Because we still have a very long way to go, but there is enough happening that could help to support some of the activities and programs that the House of Worship is doing. So I think, again, the answer is yes. Next question.
This one's from me. How far away are we from total immersion and realism where you 100% buy an AI-generated person? The samples I've seen are very impressive, but not quite there yet.
Courtney?
I think we're moving into that neighborhood. I think that there are a lot of tools out there that can do perfectly believable talking heads. Most of it's coming out of China. There's Vasa One, which is Microsoft research in China, and there's one called Emo. I think Emo is actually available. This is not it. Excuse me. This is what it looks like, and they can take a still image like this of Grace Kelly and add an audio track to it and make a completely believable. I'll take her down here a little bit, but you can see it just started with that single still, and it's doing this, just pulling all the emotions, the head movement and the facial reactions, including the eye movement, everything else, just from the audio track. And these can do this in real time. So you can actually, find a singer to sing along to an audio track and just take a still picture. In fact, they used even the lady from the Sora video and let her sing a Dua Lipa song. But and that can happen in real time with 179 millisecond delay, and it can be done on off-the-shelf computer hardware. An NVIDIA card, a 4070 card, and a PC. Maybe a 8-core, 12-core PC can handle this stuff and create those images real time. So I don't think we're very far away. I think the guardrails are trying to be worked out, but the technology is there. The software is there. It's just a matter of working out the political acceptance and the problem of generating, something like this that could be used for evil, for spear phishing and things like that. It is so great that they're afraid to release it.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm just still concerned about the push toward the middle of all this stuff. And here's what I'm saying. Yes, you can make Grace Kelly talk. But can you make Grace Kelly talk as Grace Kelly actually would have in that circumstance? Was she happy? Was she sad? Was she annoyed? it's going to middleize that, so you're hearing what she's saying and you're believing that she's saying it, but none of the human stuff that makes you able to say the same phrase 6 different ways and come up with 6 different results is programmable yet. Maybe it'll get there, who knows. But I'm also reminded of something, I don't know why, but this caused me to think of Linda Ronstadt. There's a song she did called Blue Bayou, and at the end of the song, she has this line, she says, down the track, and she makes that hard K snap exactly in time. To me, that's been one of my little touchstones about why she was a great artist. She, in the moment, felt that, executed that, and it made me smile, and it made that moment in the song come alive for me. And how are you going to get a computer to figure out it needs to do that? Nobody I've ever heard had done that before. She did in that moment in the studio, feeling her way through the song. And I just hate to see us middleize too much of creation, because those moments aren't going to be algorithmically possible.
Courtney.
Oh, I beg to differ.
Cool.
If you look at the go to the Vasa One website for Microsoft Research, and you'll see demos there, and they do have sliders where you can take you text to voice or just add your own voice, and it's very similar to the emo that I just demonstrated there. And they have these ones where you can move a slider toward angry or happy, angry, happy, and it changes in real time. That they look angry, they have a more constrained look on their face, and they squint their eyes a little more, and they look a little more angry. And happy, they get a smile on their face when they're saying something. So you can adjust the emotion, you can adjust the amount of head movement. You have sliders on all that stuff, so it's all adjustable. The amount of emotion is added is all scalable and in real time.
Alex?
Yeah, I think that I do. Well, number one is I said this before. I have very low opinion of almost all video that we see from an accuracy perspective. I think that we see stuff, but a lot of times, I've had the opportunity to be in many places with many people before and after they were on camera or in the environment where they were shot, and very little of it is connected to reality. And so I think that I think I'm not worried about that. I think that there's a real opportunity when I look at some of the things where they're making historical images alive or making those things. There is something about it that makes it more real for the person watching it, whether it's accurate or not. I don't know how important that is. Most of the history that we read is not accurate. It was the point of view of the person that read it, that wrote it. It's his story. So it's somebody's story that they wrote or they said over time. It's all made up. And so when we try to visualize those things, but what I do think is there's something about visualization that makes it more real for people, and I think you do have to be careful with it, to Bill's point. But I also think, because it's like when I was doing when I did legal animation, that's what it was between the time I was doing games and Lucasfilm. I did legal animation, pays really well, in case you're wondering, or did back then. But one of the things is that lawyers would always fight for us to never be able to put the animations in, because once the jury saw it, it was very hard for them to get it out of their head. So whatever you put into animation, if people were all talking and testifying and talking about things and filing evidence, it would never survive an onslaught of video. Like if there was a bunch of videos like this is what we say happened, and so lawyers would fight tooth and nail to keep that out of the courtroom, because they knew that if we did it, they'd have to do it. We had I can't talk about the details of it, but I worked on a case that this is 30 years ago, that the opposing side spent $75,000 on their animation, and we spent $1.4 million on ours. And in discovery, they settled. It was just like they were just like, oh yeah, we can't do that. Like, because they didn't even know how to find people to do that animation, and that was the. So I think that there is an incredible opportunity to make that. There is an opportunity for risk. There's a risk to it, but there's an incredible opportunity to get people excited about history, whether that's biblical history, as Tony just asked, or just history, or art history. There's all kinds of things that could make things really interesting there. And I do think, by the way, the market that is going to explode as memes because there's so many opportunities to make little 6-second things that are really funny.
Bill?
First of all, Courtney, thank you for disagreeing with me. Seriously, because without disagreement, there is no dialogue. And that's the best part of this show, is that we can hopefully disagree even more than we already do and bring up the reasons. My counter to your thought is, yes, I can bring up happy, but can I bring up happy authentic to the character? My wife, for example, has a very distinctive laugh. And when she's in the midst of a joyful feeling, I know it because I hear that laugh. I don't care how much you turn up a generic laugh, it's not going to be her. And I will know the inauthenticity of that because I have experienced her laugh, and it's not the same as my laugh, your laugh, or anybody else's laugh. And that's what, to me, brings the character into that truly buyable space.
Go ahead, Rick.
Something to consider too is that a lot of these things a lot of these tools we're playing with are publicly available tools. These are, whether they're free or paid tiers, these are still things that are, open to the public, where some of the tools that we don't really know much about, these proprietary tools that some of these VFX houses have, do, I think, have the ability to generate more realistic images than, the publicly available tools, things that, we wouldn't have access to, that have some really good funding. So that's something to consider too. I mean, what we have to play with, it's amazing. It's coming along so far. It seems like it's every single day we get improvements and there's new tools coming out. But I'd really like to know what is out there that, isn't available to the public.
Whoops, it didn't succeed in you unmuting. Liberty, we didn't hear that.
Was that me?
Oh, my apologies. Yeah,
Okay.
Courtney.
And coming back, these tools, like I said, some of these tools, like the VASA one, is not available to the public, although they have a demonstration website up that demonstrates it. And that's what I was showing. And here, Bill, is the demonstration of different emotions with the same soundtrack.
I'm a fan of media supervisor by trade. You had me on one of the most fun experiences of my life is I was on the show in Chicago, and I attempted to eat 2 Italian beef sandwiches in under a minute.
So that is the same guy, the same head. That's an artificial face, by the way. That's not a real person. But you can add, one of those is surprise, one is neutral, one is happy, one is anger.
So if 10 people pick that same character and put the slider at the same level of surprise, they get exactly the same result, correct?
Yes, with the same audio track.
That means that with hundreds of millions of people using this stuff, what you're going to get is a centering of diversity of surprise.
Well, it takes its cues from the audio track. So it depends on the audio track. So like you say, if you're trying to duplicate somebody perfectly, you'll be able to tell it apart from the real person. But if you don't know that real person, if you didn't know this guy that I just showed, and he's an artificial guy, he's not a real person,
right,
you won't know it's not accurate because you've never seen this person before.
No, I'm
you don't
just
know how
saying
they talk.
The fifth time you see that guy surprised, you're going to go, oh, that's that guy. It's like us hearing those voices all over YouTube going, oh, it's that guy. That's not a human. That's that guy. That's the Bill from
Alex.
The Alex.
The first. Exactly. It is Alex. It's named Alex. And it's because it's the first. It was the first voice available from 11 Labs, I think, or it's the first one on the list. I don't even think it's the first voice. I think it's just like the top of. They were like, oh yeah, that sounds good enough.
And I've gotten to the place where I hear that voice and I go, oh, they didn't put much effort into this. Next.
See, it's funny because I just look at it as information. Like a lot of what I'm watching on YouTube is I'm not looking for a performance. I'm there for the protein, and I don't really care how the protein shows up. And so I think that because I think that some people aren't very good at presenting, and their English is not their first language, or they don't have good audio. So I think a lot of times the AI voices are there because, I look at a lot of those ones that have the Alex voice on them. there's still a lot of work that's being done to put them together. I mean, there was more work than some of the videos I put on YouTube. So they're editing them, they're thinking them out, they're doing those things. And so I think that it's not that there's no effort. It's just that they're not good at one thing and they have something else do it. I think that to me, that's a lot of what happens there. And I think that, again, I'm not worried about it replacing the highest end of what we do. And I do think, to your point, I think we are going to get tired of some things that we feel like. I know that there is this pushback against visual effects where people say, well, we didn't use any computer graphics or whatever. And what that means is we hid the computer graphics more effectively. What it meant is that we used more sets and we spent more money on the visual effects so that they're more invisible, because what was happening is the physics aren't right. People are jumping way faster than they should, and people keep on stretching it out. And as viewers, we got tired of it. I mean, I think the opening for Aquaman 2 is, I literally I made it 10 minutes into that movie and was like, no, I'm not going to watch this. And I'm a visual effects guy. I was just like, this is so bad. And even my wife was like, well, this is horrible. But it's not that we didn't want to have the story or we didn't want to have those things. It was that it felt artificial. And in the same way, when you look at like a TikTok, and I think this is a really important conversation. I know we're going to show things, but this is why we show these things, is to have these conversations. But I think with TikTok, if I see something that as soon as it feels like it's an ad, and that means that what's interesting is I thought that I should do TikToks that with really, really high-end cameras and it would look great, but it actually reduces viewability on TikTok because it doesn't feel authentic. And so people will go right past it. You see short depth of field in a TikTok and it's like, whoop, goodbye, because that they're trying to sell you something. So it's a really interesting puzzle.
It is. I agree with you 100% on that. And I don't think it's going to get easier. I think it's going to get harder. My brain is flipping off at signals that it never saw before, like that Alex voice. And it's not that I will stop immediately go, this must be fake because it's a fake voice. It will just be one more thing is this really, somebody did this and they didn't really take the time to say something from their point of view. They just had an avatar write, whatever somebody else wrote. And I'll look at it just with a little more question in my mind. That's all.
Right. And now, Rick, let's go back. You have another demo that you wanted to share with us. So as we continue this journey and conversation around AI video, text to video generation, what do you have for us next?
I've actually got two more, but what I'm going to start with is a Luma Dream Machine. And this one is text to video, but I'm going to be showing I can show you some of the text to video. But I'll probably be most focusing on image to video. But these are some prompts that, you can see the prompt below, cockpit zooming through an asteroid field. I'll maybe bring it up here so you can see a little bit better. It's definitely has issues, but it's interesting. This coming from just a text prompt. The ship definitely falls apart, but this is a image to image. So this was kind of the original was a kind of a virtual production style shoot. It was all shot on a projection screen and lit, and then I used some AI for the background images. But this is a loop mode where you bring in your image and it'll start with the image and then loop back to the original, and just a little bit of text in there as well. Not perfect. It's definitely interesting. I did another version that isn't a loop. This one's a little bit better, but his legs are getting kind of long there, and it's creative. Not exactly what I was hoping for. And honestly,
isn't that all of AI? It's creative, but not exactly what I was hoping for. I mean, I think that sums up most AI generation. I mean, when I'm doing stuff now, sometimes it is not. What I would say is it's almost always not what I meant, or not what I was thinking. And sometimes it's not as good as what I thought, and sometimes it's radically better. Like that's the thing that I love brainstorming in Midjourney or something else like that. Is sometimes it's way better than I never saw that coming, and it's great.
Right. Yeah, definitely good for inspiration. So this was kind of a virtual production shot. I used Midjourney to generate the background, and then I shot a model on a stage in front of a screen with some lighting, and then tried to animate it here. And she's holding a snake in each hand. It definitely falls apart quickly and doesn't quite look like the original model. But it's very interesting. It definitely adds some motion to it.
And the snake eats her arm.
This one is image to image, so it kind of morphs between the two. And I'm actually using some of these for an art installation that I'm working on, and I'm trying to morph between two images, and this is kind of creative. I mean, this is a good use for it, in my opinion, because it's not quite realistic, but it's interesting and a very interesting morph technique, in my opinion.
So is it safe to say to a degree that something like this, where it is purely for the artistic way that you are able to generate the video, that we'll definitely see more of that, and artists using the creativity side of AI?
I believe so, yes. As far as accuracy and realism, we still have a ways to go. But as far as some very creative hallucinations or dreams, I think, this is great for that.
And what else do you have for us? You said you had one more that you wanted to...
Yeah. So Kling is the other AI. This one is probably my current favorite so far. So I've got a bunch of different things I've been playing with. Some of the virtual production techniques where I wanted to animate some of the virtual production shots I've done. But this is a series I've been working on too. It's a bunch of glass insects that I kind of bring to life with Kling. And, some of them are creative. Some of them are very... Let me find another bug here. See if I can find one that's walking around a little bit more. Some of them just sit there. The antennas on this one kind of fall apart. And some of them are, they come out very nicely, I feel. But this is a series I've been working on. And then I'll skip over to... So this was a virtual production style shot where I had an actor in front of a screen, and we had some props and some lights and things. And then I added the fog with Adobe Generative Fill and then tried to bring it to life with this. So his face definitely falls apart. It's interesting action. So I tried to experiment with a few different versions of this. So this is a different version where I'm asking it to have a glowing tentacle emerge from his bag. So I feel this one.
Hey, Rick, can I ask you, why,
yes.
if he was a real actor, why would his face fall apart? Is it one part of it interacting with that actual shot and causing it to fall?
That's a great question. I think, for one, he has two pairs of goggles on. One has, the light from the bag. So I'm assuming, because, this one, the fog is going in front of his face, that it's causing his face to distort. But at the same time, it's doing a really good job, I think, holding the original image. It doesn't, the end result doesn't look anything like the actual model themselves, but it's still pretty interesting.
Yeah, that helps me. So essentially, the effects being applied to it are affecting the actual shot because you're asking it to, essentially. You're compositing two different things.
You also have, excuse me, you have... when you add in an image, you also have a setting, so creativity and relevance. So I tried to make this one a little bit more relevant. And the other shot, I think, was a mix. I go kind of like right down the middle between creativity and relevance. So a little more creative, but I think was a little less relevant. And I will point out, too, this is the free plan. There is a professional mode, which does give you better results. So I have not tried the professional mode yet, but I would definitely like to sometime. So this is another version of that first shot I had shown you. Luma did an okay job. This one seemed to kind of do well until a certain point, and it seems to fall apart. You can either, for the free plan, you can either do 5-second lengths or 10-second. When I first started doing this, you could probably generate a 5-second in 3 to 4 minutes. But as I started working on this and people started getting on this platform, it got to the point where a 10-second took over 24 hours to generate. So I started switching back to the 5-second, and that seemed to be somewhere between 12 hours or less. But I think it's just because they're growing so incredibly quickly that they're just having a hard time keeping up with the the demand. You can also do like an image to image. So this one, like this is just an image prompt. I'm trying some mech things, and I'm just trying to get some different interesting perspectives to bring this to life. This one, let me find here. So this was image to image. So it starts with one, and then I had used Midjourney to do a expand. So I zoomed out and expanded. So I kind of did an image to image morph between those two. I think it turned out pretty well. This was another virtual production style shoot where I shot on a background. Her face does not quite look right. It looks pretty distorted, but I really like the movement of the wings in this. Some things just don't turn out how you expect at all. Like my daughter an idea for a steampunk Hello Kitty, and it seemed to do okay at first, and then I think this one glitches towards the end. I think this one turned out okay. Just didn't have much movement in it. So let me kind of go to another version here. Yeah, this one a little bit more movement, and then I think midway through it, it just kind of switches to another pose. So then I tried again. Several attempts. See, this one just kind of went to a completely different image. But this last one, I seem to be a little happy with it. It gave me enough movement. It stuck with the character throughout the whole shot.
And Rick, who would you say Kling AI? Who are they targeting? Who are the people, or is this just another one in the wheelhouse trying to put their stake in the ground?
Well, this is a Chinese company. It was very difficult to get in at first because there wasn't an English version, so I had to translate everything to get into the app. I even had to come up with a Chinese phone number to be able to put in here to generate an account. But they have opened it up to English, speaking users as well. So now there is a version that's a little more friendly to get into. Who their target audience is, I don't know exactly. I think they're trying to target people like me, but and they're doing a good job at it.
Right.
But yeah, I'll show you a couple other ones. Like this was like a variation on Little Red Riding Hood that I put some pieces together, and this is kind of a hybrid between the two. And then I've been trying some fantasy things as well. Some of them turn out really well. Some of them don't. Like this one completely changes midway through. And so then I'll just try running them again. If I don't get the results I like, I'll change the slider between the relevancy and the creativity, and then maybe changing my prompt up a little bit. But some of them, like some of these here, I really like some of these. Her lips do kind of fall apart at first, but I was pretty happy with what I got so far. And same with some of these. I just enough movement to kind of bring it to life, I think is pretty nice.
And amidst all of them, because I know that prompting in these generators varies. There's some best practices that are shared out there. Do you find that for the video aspect that they're all pretty similar, or what are some of the best practices you can even share with us?
Well, it's really trial and error, to be honest. Like for Kling, sometimes I won't even put a prompt in. Okay. I'll just load an image and see what it can imagine. And other times, if I'm trying to get a specific, like, for example, this didn't turn out the best, but it's interesting. Let me find it here. What I wanted to do is I wanted to have a mech that opened its face to reveal a pilot, but, came up with something a little different. So I started with an image of a mech face, and then I had an image of someone in a cockpit and tried to imagine the difference between the two. So my prompt was battle mech's face opens, revealing the pilot. Oh, and a little typo in the cockpit. But, not quite exactly what I wanted, but still interesting results.
Nice. All right. Well, Alex, do you want to show some of what you have, and then we'll go to some questions? Yeah, let's go to the questions then. All right, Alexander.
Yeah, the next question is from Tony Mobley. Please share the cost of the AI video programs.
Alex?
The one that I'm with, Runway, which is the one that I've been fiddling with, which we may or may not get to today. We'll do another day of it. But Runway is, I'm paying for the standard. I think it's $15 a month, and then you pay for more credits if you need them, and you burn through the credits really fast. Just in case you're wondering, like it's a pretty expensive program to use. It's dramatically more expensive than Midjourney. So I think that you just have to know that it's probably the most expensive one that's out there. I think that it has an enormous number of tools that are available to it. It's kind of like if you look at, let me see if I can pull this over here. I was, let's see, I have it up here. It's got a bit of a dashboard but if you look at this here, you'll see that there's lots of text to image, video to video, generative audio, so on and so forth. But then you hit tools, and it feels like it's just like, while we were doing our research, we found that we could do all these other things too. And so they have lots of, cleaning, extracting depth and cleaning audio, removing silence, adding color. There's lots of other tools in here that I've just started to kind of really dig into. So there's a lot that you can get done there. And then they have a version of Runway that is $75 a month. You'd really have to be serious about it, but then that's unlimited. And, I've thought about, like, for a month, that if I thought I had enough time to play with it, I might pay $75 for 1 month and then kill the subscription and then just generate I think I could play with it, get my head around it, and then push out a bunch of content would be the kind of thing that I would do. And I would, I will just let's see if I can pull it up really quickly here. Let's see if I can, like, here is a couple of, this was one that when it comes to, like, demoing something. So I had done this I had this idea.
Are you sharing screen
No,
or?
not yet.
Okay. Copy.
So I had this idea of a show where it's kind of like a mixture of kind of cops, Land of the Lost and because it's kind of goofy, but it's people who go hunt. They go to another planet and they go hunting for dinosaurs. It's like, but the planet's there for that, like that. They bred them. It's all there for hunting for. But it goes horribly wrong, of course. And so this is So I made this. This is the image that I started with in Midjourney. So the idea is that they thought it was going to be a good idea, and just like Jurassic Park, things happen. And so, but what was great is I could add it in here and add a little bit of motion to the. Now, this didn't quite turn out like he's got some kind of very weird. It didn't know what to do with the rifle that he was holding, but it does give you this kind of sense of this. All the stuff went badly, So as a demo, as a concept art, and this is like only a couple tries, I thought that it was. It was a lot of fun. So you can do that kind of thing. It does not always, turn out, but there's a lot of things like this. This is an example of, I have this little guy that I made in Midjourney that was, like, I wanted this old man to explain it. Now this guy was, I think in Midjourney it was like, and I just thought, do a static shot of him talking. Getting to the arms out is a little weird, but then it kind of sinks in of him talking that's there. And that was like I think a know-it-all in Midjourney that is, some old man. And so but then you can get, like I have this, there was this concept that, when you talk about visualizing something, there was someone who was talking about the experience. This gets back to what Tony was talking about. There's a philosopher that was talking about the experience of certain people in hell, that I've always felt like it would be really interesting to see what that actually looked like. So this was this is what it generated, which is, a little scary. It makes you want to, like, mind your P's and Q's, in that area. What I think right there, see that at the very end, what was most interesting is that it lights his face. See that flame? It's going to light his face accurately, which I find to be one of the more, that last little bit is the part that I find to be the most interesting part of that, is that it took that image that was generated by Midjourney and generated and it actually grabbed geometry. So
yeah, that detail right there, like you said, once you said it, I was like, oh, wait, that is really good. Awesome. Next question.
Next question is from Roz Humphreys in Comox, British Columbia, Canada. I'm looking for image to video AI. Any thoughts on current options? Thanks.
Alex?
Well, you saw a touch of the stuff that I did with Runway. Again, Runway I like a lot. I just the one that what happens with me is I kind of glop onto something. It's so deep that I was like, I can't learn all of them. So Rick has showed a couple, the LTX, Luma, and Kling, and I think all of those are good options, and I think they're all different price ranges. So, but those, I think these are the top, I would argue probably the top 4.
Agreed. And then actually I can, I was thinking, maybe I'll be a little creative coming into the show today. So there are some that are more so like your standard, what you see right now. And this is Synthesia. This is a demo video of Synthesia. Let me know if you can hear the audio here, but it was going to be like just a quick little intro.
We're not hearing audio.
Okay, not hearing audio. Let me come out and come back in. But it was just even looking at it, it was just her saying, I'm hosting office hours today, and we're going to talk about AI video. So those are the kind of things, and I shared the link in the comment community, and John had shared that those talking heads, those are really good for those quick, short explainer videos, or for if you are doing some sort of training. That's the kind of content that we're kind of accustomed to right now. So it's not your box office hit, but for what it does for training that is something, yeah.
And there are a lot of executives at a lot of companies that I would rather watch the AI version of them than actually watch them actually try to do this. So I just want to make sure we're clear. Like we say, we shouldn't ever have any CG, but sometimes it's better than the real thing. So,
yeah, let's try this again.
Today I'm hosting Office Hours Global, an international live stream production. We're going to discuss AI in video generation. Stay tuned.
And
often imitated, never duplicated.
Yeah.
Just saying. But yeah, the sync being off. So it's still got a ways to go. Definitely got a ways to go. But Roz, if you're looking to just dip your toe in the waters and try some things, because it is learning what kind of prompts work. Like Rick said, it's kind of a hit and miss. There are Runway has some best practices on their website you can look at for prompting. So I would say, in addition to what Alex shared, just helping you to get started.
One other thing that I did with Runway is I decided to do the hardest test I could find for video, which was Simone Biles. Like if you're going to track something, I figured that would be the hardest thing to do. So if you see this here, we did, because it'll also do CG characters. So you have, her doing her floor routine, and if we jump into it, you see that it gets pretty. Hold on, here we go. So you can see this. So this is hard to track. So.
Were there some glitches at the front, like on the front end?
That wasn't tracked. This is what I did.
Oh, okay.
So we
Gotcha.
had this fine gentleman. This is using Runway's ability to put a 3D character. You can rig a 3D character and put them in, and it just rotated her out and put him in. Now it's not going to be perfect. This is where we talk about memes. He's got still a little of her hair here. I don't think I identified that well enough there, which I find hilarious. And this is, by the way, the character is one that was stock, but here's where it falls apart. So, and then it goes, and then I'm here. So that was a stock character that came with it. It's like, just pick this person. So I picked the most absurd looking one. But what I would say is that's another piece of video creation that we didn't talk about, is translating video footage into a CG character, which can then be used for a lot of other things and export it out to 3D character. That's another piece of these puzzles.
Next question.
From Talalek Lopez Waterman in Galisteo, New Mexico. As a person who attended 7 years of art school, I wonder if there is a chance that these tools could result in the loss of the creative community putting the right kind of importance on learning some of the basic design fundamentals. Thoughts?
Bill?
Sure, there's that chance. And, listen, every technology changed. When they moved from painters having to grind their own paints to come up with the right colors to being able to buy them in the art store, that changed what the focus of the artist had to be. Some of those changes are good. Some of them are not so good. But art changes, production changes, creativity changes over the course of time. And one way or another, we're going to have to deal with this.
Alex?
I think it'll just open up new opportunities for what we're doing and visualizing and how we're putting it together. I think that there will be some people that anytime there's a disruption, we see a shift in employment. But I think that we constantly the older generation is constantly complaining about the younger generation losing their skills, and not understanding the basics. And so you oftentimes look at those things. I find it oftentimes painful to watch people on YouTube talking about video production or audio production, and they do things that are just painful to watch, like that. But that's what they're doing, And I think that there's a lot of people that will always still pay attention. There's still Japanese steelsmiths that are making swords the way they made them in the 15th century. There's not very many left in that area, but I think that we also have to look at that. There's at the high end, there's still a demand for people who really know what they're talking about and really understand the fundamentals. And I think that'll happen for some time. The real danger of a lot of these things is cutting off the feeder pipe. If there's not any work for people who are doing it basic and not very good at what they do, they never get an opportunity to put the 10,000 hours in that it takes to get really good at it. And that's going to be, so for people who are advanced now, I think that it's probably okay. For people trying to get up, it's going to be much, much harder.
Well, thank you so much for another hour here on Office Hours. Thank you, producers, for all of your great questions, the conversations going on in the community, to our panelists for your demos and sharing your insights and answering all of these wonderful questions. And of course, our back-end team, without which this show would not be possible. Let's head over to the Talak Traversal. We have traveled 48,000 miles. That's 78,000 kilometers. That's 384 million bananas for scale. And for the schedule for the rest of the week, you can head over to officehours.global, and we will see you next time. Bye. That was great, Rick. Thank you. You're going to make me go I might have to DM you and find out how to get on to Kling. Although you said they did make it a little bit easier, but I like a lot of that concept stuff that you shared.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, it looked cool.
Yeah, thank you, Rick.
Welcome. Yeah, it's just klingai.com. So
I wasn't sure if I could do a whole hour on all of these. I know a little bit about all of them. Rick knows them a lot better. When Rick showed up, I was like, let's have Rick talk.
Right. It was a great tango, though, going back and forth. Yeah.
And extra points for navigating the Kling thing in Chinese.
I was like, did you put that into Gemini and then get all the English and then put it back in? Yeah.
I took screenshots and used Google Translate.
Nice.
What worries me is all this AI extensive video stuff is coming out of China and not out of the United States.